In the 1960s in America, you didn't need a smartphone to know where your friends were. And if you were lucky enough to have a dime in your pocket, you had something even more valuable. Choice. Not between hundreds of energy drinks, flavored waters, and designer beverages, but between soft drinks that have almost completely disappeared from the American memory. Tonight, we're taking a trip back to that America, an America of chrome diners. And trust me, number one on this list may bring back memories you haven't thought about in 50 years. Number 6 represented something millions of Americans miss today: local pride. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button, like, and turn on the notification button. Number 20. Patio Orange. It's the summer of 1964. School is out. You've just finished Little League practice. The coach opens the trunk of his car and pulls out a wooden crate filled with ice-cold glass bottles. The ice is melting, the labels are wet, and every kid on the team rushes forward, hoping to get their favorite flavor. For many children, that flavor was Patio Orange. Today, almost nobody remembers Patio, but for a brief moment during the 1960s, Pepsi believed it could become one of the biggest soft drink brands in America. Patio wasn't just one soda. It was an entire family of fruit-flavored drinks: orange, grape, strawberry, fruit punch. The company marketed them heavily toward families and children. And honestly, the timing seemed perfect. America was booming. Suburbs were expanding. It was everywhere. Picnics, birthday parties, church gatherings, summer baseball tournaments. But Patio wasn't the only soft drink that quietly slipped away, because number 19 once battled some of the biggest names in the soda business, and most Americans have completely forgotten it existed. Number 19. Upper 10. If your mother ever took you grocery shopping on a Saturday afternoon in the early 1960s, there's a good chance you saw Upper 10. Back then, grocery stores felt different. There wasn't background music everywhere. The aisles seemed wider. The carts were heavier. And near the checkout counter sat rows and rows of glass soda bottles. Among them was a drink called Upper 10. At first glance, it looked like just another lemon-lime soda. But Upper 10 had a surprisingly loyal following. The company positioned it as a premium alternative, a little more sophisticated, a little more refined, the kind of drink adults ordered while children reached for orange soda. For a while it worked. Upper 10 developed a devoted customer base throughout parts of the country. Families bought it by the case. Restaurants served it. Local bottlers promoted it heavily. Yet today, if you ask most younger Americans about Upper 10, you'll probably get a blank stare. The next soda on our list might trigger something unexpected, because long before Sprite became king of lemon-lime drinks, another contender was fighting for the throne. Number 18. Teem. If you remember Teem, there's a good chance you remember rabbit ear televisions, transistor radios, and being told to come home before dark. Teem was Pepsi's answer to the growing popularity of lemon-lime sodas, and for a while, it looked promising. The branding was clean, the taste was refreshing, and Pepsi poured serious effort into making Teem a household name. But here's what many people forget. Back in the 1960s, soft drink loyalty was intense. Families often drank the same brands for years, sometimes generations. If your father drank a certain soda, chances were good you drank it too. Brand loyalty wasn't just marketing, it was culture. Teem entered a fiercely competitive battlefield. Before we reveal number 17, let's pause for a moment. And the next soft drink on our list was one of the stars of that era. Number 17. Bubble Up. Now here's a name that sounds like it belongs in a cartoon. But Bubble Up was serious business. For decades, Bubble Up challenged bigger brands and built a surprisingly loyal following. And today, many Americans under 50 have never even heard the name. Yet for older viewers, hearing it may instantly bring back memories of warm nights, movie screens, and the smell of popcorn drifting through the summer air. But our next forgotten soft drink may divide this audience, because adults loved it, and many kids couldn't stand it. Number 16. Wink. If you were a child expecting a sweet orange soda and accidentally grabbed a Wink, you probably remember the surprise. Wink wasn't like most sodas. It had a grapefruit flavor. Sharp, tangy, a little bitter. Number 15. Light. Today, diet soft drinks are everywhere. But in the early 1960s, the idea of drinking a diet soda still felt unusual. And honestly, many people simply preferred the real thing. Still, like played an important role in soft drink history. Many of the brands that introduced new ideas disappeared. The companies that followed often got all the credit. But if you think that's surprising, wait until you hear about the next drink. Number 14. Simba. This is a forgotten soft drink story that almost sounds unbelievable. The drink itself featured a grapefruit citrus flavor profile. Refreshing, bright, different from traditional colas. Americans were becoming more adventurous. Tastes were evolving. Today, many Americans have never heard of it. And speaking of drinks that tried to capture changing tastes, the next entry tells us something fascinating about America itself. Number 13. Rondo. It wasn't subtle. The advertising was loud, energetic, aggressive. The slogan practically shouted at you. Perhaps that's why these forgotten sodas still matter. They're not really about sugar, or carbonation, or flavors. They're about moments. Moments we wish we could revisit. Moments connected to people we miss. And speaking of unforgettable memories, the next soda became especially popular among American teenagers. Number 12. Cherokee Red. If you saw Cherokee Red sitting on a store shelf, you couldn't miss it. The color practically demanded attention. Bright, bold, vibrant. Everything about it seemed designed to stand out. And that's exactly why teenagers loved it. But our next entry may trigger even stronger memories, because it was often associated with one of America's favorite traditions, the family road trip. Number 11. Suncrest Orange. If you've ever spent 12 hours squeezed into the back seat of a station wagon, this one might bring back memories. Suncrest Orange became a familiar sight at gas stations, roadside diners, and convenience stops across America. The flavor was bright, sweet, refreshing, exactly what people wanted after hours on the road. Number 10. New Grape. Now here's a drink that many Americans remember instantly, especially throughout the South and Midwest. Before supermarket shelves became crowded with dozens of grape-flavored choices, New Grape stood out. And if you were a kid growing up in the 1950s or 1960s, there was something magical about grape soda. Maybe it was the color. Maybe it was the sweetness. Maybe it was simply different from what the adults usually drank. Whatever the reason, kids loved it. The next drink might instantly remind you of backyard cookouts and long summer evenings. Number 9. Frostie Root Beer. If summer had a flavor in 1960s America, there's a good chance it tasted something like root beer. And few brands captured that feeling better than Frosty. The name itself sounded refreshing. The logo looked cheerful. And the drink became associated with some of the happiest moments of American family life. Yet Frosty remained one of those names that people remembered long after they stopped seeing it in stores. The reason is simple. People remember how things made them feel. And Frosty made people feel like summer. But if you think Frosty was important, wait until we reach number 8. Because this next drink wasn't just popular. It helped shape the entire history of root beer in America. Number 8. Hires Root Beer. There are soft drinks. And then there are legends. Hires Root Beer belongs in the second category. Long before many modern soda brands even existed, Hires had already become part of American life. For older viewers, this drink often carries memories that stretch across multiple generations. Not just their own childhood, their parents' childhood, sometimes even their grandparents' childhood. Imagine that. A single soft drink connecting 3 generations of Americans. Hires became one of the earliest and most recognizable root beer brands in the country. Its popularity spread during a period when America itself was transforming. Now here's where things start getting really interesting. Because our next entry wasn't inspired by another soda company. It was inspired by a comic strip. And if you've never heard of it, you're not alone. Number 7. Kickapoo Joy Juice. Even the name sounds unbelievable. Kickapoo Joy Juice. Try explaining that to someone under 30. They'll probably think you're making it up. But this unusual soft drink became remarkably successful during its time. The name came from the enormously popular comic strip, Lil Abner. And that's important because younger generations often forget how influential comic strips once were. Before social media, before streaming, before video games, Comic strips occupied a central place in American culture. Millions of people followed them religiously. Characters became celebrities. Catchphrases entered everyday conversation, and businesses rushed to capitalize on their popularity. Kickapoo Joy Juice emerged from that environment, but our next entry proves that some regional favorites refused to go quietly. Number 6. Golden Cola. Before America became dominated by a handful of national brands, many regions had their own cola, their own favorite, their own hometown champion. Golden Cola was one of those drinks. For many consumers, it wasn't simply a beverage. It was part of local identity. The kind of drink people proudly served at family gatherings. The kind of drink that represented home. And our next entry may trigger exactly those feelings, because it was present at countless family events across America. Number 5. Kist. If there was ever a soda brand designed for family gatherings, it might have been Kist. Church picnics, county fairs, school events, family reunions. Kist seemed to appear everywhere. The brand offered multiple fruit flavors and developed a reputation for being cheerful, colorful, and approachable. These aren't just forgotten sodas. These are legends. Drinks that sparked conversations, created loyal fans, and in some cases, became part of American culture itself. Let's continue. Number 4. Mountain Dew. The original formula. Now this one may surprise a lot of people, because Mountain Dew still exists. Millions of bottles are sold every year. You can find it in almost every convenience store in America. But here's the catch. The Mountain Dew your grandchildren drink today is not the Mountain Dew many Americans remember from the 1960s. Not even close. The original version was a completely different experience. In fact, when Mountain Dew first appeared, it wasn't designed to be an extreme sports drink. There were no skateboard commercials, no motocross riders, no video game sponsorships, no high-energy branding. Instead, it was marketed as a playful regional soft drink with roots deep in Appalachia. The original advertising had a country feel, a rural charm. And speaking of drinks that promise something different, the next entry may be the most unusual soft drink on our entire list. Number 3. Dr. Enough. Now here's a name that sounds like it belongs in a comic book. Dr. Enough. And believe it or not, this drink made a claim that would raise a lot of eyebrows today. It suggested that a soft drink could actually be good for you. Imagine hearing that in modern America. A healthy soda. Most people would laugh. But during the middle decades of the 20th century, the idea seemed surprisingly reasonable. America was fascinated by vitamins. Advertisements promoted vitamins. Doctors discussed vitamins. Pharmacies displayed vitamins everywhere. Consumers were actively searching for products that promised health benefits. Dr. Enough stepped directly into that conversation. Number 2. Double Cola. Now we're entering the territory of serious ambition, because Double Cola wasn't trying to be different. It wasn't trying to be quirky. It wasn't trying to serve a niche audience. Double Cola wanted something much bigger. It wanted to compete directly with Coca-Cola. Think about how bold that sounds. Even today, taking on Coca-Cola would be considered an enormous challenge. But during the mid-20th century, Double Cola believed it had a chance. And for a while, many consumers agreed. The name itself was memorable. Double Cola. More flavor, more value. Imagine walking through a grocery store in 1960. You're comparing bottles, looking at labels, considering prices. Then you see a product called Double Cola. The promise practically sells itself. Many consumers gave it a chance. Many became loyal customers. And throughout certain parts of the country, the drink developed a remarkably passionate following. Some people genuinely believed it tasted better than Coke. Others preferred it because it felt like an underdog, the hometown challenger, the smaller company willing to fight the giant. But eventually reality caught up. Advertising budgets grew larger. National distribution became more important. Shelf space became increasingly competitive. And Coca-Cola's enormous resources proved difficult to overcome. Double Cola survived far longer than many expected, but it never managed to overthrow the king. Still, for countless Americans, it remains one of the great what-if stories in soft drink history. What if things had gone differently? What if Double Cola had won? What if your hometown favorite had become America's favorite? We'll never know. But that's part of what makes nostalgia so compelling. It allows us to revisit roads not taken. And now we've reached number 1, the final entry, the drink that may trigger more memories than any other on this list. Number 1, Bubble Up, the golden era. Now some of you may have noticed that we mentioned Bubble Up earlier. But here's the thing. Bubble Up deserves this final spot, not simply because of the drink itself, but because of what it represents. Imagine America in 1962. Brand new cars fill suburban driveways. Children race bicycles down quiet streets. Television sets glow in living rooms. Families gather around dinner tables every evening. Baseball games play on radios. New highways stretch across the country. Drive-in theaters fill with families on summer weekends. The future feels bright. The future feels possible. And somewhere in the middle of all that optimism sits an ice-cold bottle of Bubble Up. That's why this drink matters. Not because it was the best soda. Not because it sold the most bottles. Not because it changed history. But because it existed during a remarkable moment in American life. A moment many people still remember fondly. When older Americans talk about those years, they rarely focus on products. They talk about people, friends, neighbors, parents, grandparents, classmates, teammates. The drinks were simply there, part of the backdrop, part of the soundtrack, part of the scenery. Yet somehow they became attached to the memories themselves. And years later, seeing an old bottle or hearing an old brand name can unlock entire chapters of life. A first summer job, a first date, a high school football game, a family vacation, a Sunday afternoon with grandparents. That's the real story behind every forgotten soft drink we've discussed tonight. Not the soda, the memories, the people, the moments. Maybe that's why nostalgia feels so powerful. Because deep down, we know we're not really missing the products. We're missing the world that surrounded them. And perhaps that's what makes these old soft drinks so special. They remind us of who we were, where we came from, and the people who helped shape our lives. So before we finish, I want you to think about something. Of all the drinks on this list, which one did you actually drink? Which one instantly transported you back to childhood? Which one made you remember a person you haven't thought about in years? Was it Patio, Teem, Bubble Up, Frostie, Hires, Double Cola? Let us know in the comments below, because some of the best stories aren't in this video. They're in your memories. And if you've enjoyed this journey back through the America of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the America of soda fountains, drive-in theaters, neighborhood ball games, church picnics, county fairs, family road trips, and summer afternoons that seem to last forever, take a moment to subscribe, because here on this channel, we're preserving the stories, traditions, products,